earlier this year, you gave what's called a Member Day speech at the Budget Committee, expressing your views about fiscal policy. And I recommend that to anybody to look on your website, to look up the Member Day speech, because it just sort of lays out what the problems are and what some potential initiatives are out there that could take some steps. One of the things that you talked about is the Sustainable Budget Act that you've been involved in. And I wonder if you could sort of explain that. Who are you working on that with, and what is what's its aim?
Well, let's start with the basic premise, and it's a very unfortunate and sad premise to state at the beginning, and that is that Congress has been, and together with the administration, by the way, a series of administrations, because the last time that we actually, I think, had a fiscally sustainable budget was in 2000. So we're talking 22 years ago, during the Clinton presidency, when we had, by the way, in a divided government. So this was not a partisan issue. This was a consensus of government that we needed to have a balanced budget with sustainable debt over time. That was the last time we were really in pretty good fiscal condition, and we had some discipline in our system. Since then, a succession of presidents of both parties and Congresses of both parties have deviated from that for one way, shape, or form. And so the sad conclusion that I come to here is that Congress needs help in making these decisions. After all, the decisions are ours to make at the end of the day. The decisions as to levels of federal spending and federal taxation and levels of debt are Congress's decisions to make in our budget process and in our appropriations process and in our tax and revenue process. And so the fact of the matter is that we haven't been able to make those decisions because we're stuck in this endless cycle of really one side, wanting to, as I said in my testimony, feed the beast, which means, spend more money and either borrow that money or chase taxes up to that level of spending, or starve the beast, the other side. Let's cut taxes, but presumably chase federal government spending down to the tax level, or borrow. And in both cases, we've chosen to borrow, which is why we have record levels of debt and deficit today. And so the fact of the matter is that Congress has, unfortunately, lacked the fiscal discipline to provide for a fiscally sustainable overall approach. And so we need help. And the Sustainable Budget Act essentially says, in so many words, that we are going to try to develop an external mechanism to take a look at the big picture, because the problem here is that many of these decisions are ad hoc, isolated to one particular issue, whether it could be a very meritorious issue, for example, climate change. But the debate occurs only in one small channel: how much military spending versus non-military versus a whole of government approach. How does this all fit together in terms of total revenues, total expenses, and total debt and trends? And so what we really need is some external help to take a look at that big picture and say, okay, fine. Here's the goal. The goal is a sustainable, level of debt over time. How do you allocate revenues and expenses? Here's how you get to it. Here is our recommendation. And that recommendation is put to Congress, and Congress has to go yes or no. No tinkering away at the edges. It's a okay. You got to take the medicine. And the theory, and this is not new stuff. I mean, we've tried this before. We've had fiscal commissions in the past for exactly the same reason. Simpson, Bowles, Graham, et cetera, et cetera. And these commissions, I think, have been helpful to develop the approach and have put the hard decisions to Congress that needed to be put to Congress. Congress, unfortunately, chose not to follow those decisions. But that doesn't mean that the concept was not a good concept. And so fundamentally, that's what the Sustainable Budget Act does, is to come back and say, well, let's follow the same mechanism, because there's really no other way, apparently, that we can get to that place. That's it. I've got good, solid fellow partners in Congress that you know, believe as I do. We've got kind of a small but dedicated core of folks that share my views on this in both the House and the Senate. On the House side, people like Steve Womack from Arkansas, you know, Carolyn Bordeaux from Georgia, and others. And these are bipartisan, by the way. We work with people that want to work with us on these things. So that's fundamentally who my fellow travelers are.
And there's a similar bill on the Senate side too, that you've been working with?
Absolutely. We have counterparts in the Senate. We have partners in the Senate as well. And we also, so this is, you know, this is bipartisan, bicameral group that believe that we're on a fiscally unsustainable path, and we've got to get back to some level of fiscal sustainability, or we're really going to be in a very historically dangerous area. We already are, by the way, but on the trends that we're going on, and this is not me talking. This is the Congressional Budget Office, which is our independent budget arm of Congress, which issues reports. And I would encourage anybody that wants to kind of get into the weeds on these issues to simply look up cbo.gov, I think it is, and search for the latest CBO evaluation of the state of finances in our country, which paints a pretty bleak picture.
Yeah, none of this is classified information. It's all right out there in the open.
No, it's staring us in the face. We may not want to open the covers of that CBO report, but there it is. Them's the facts, as they say. So yes, that's fundamentally where we're going on that.